Last time I was working on this, I was chopping up the angle iron, so that's where we're going to pick it up. They'll all more or less fit like that. I have to cut some notches and stuff for where they overlap so it doesn't sit funny or anything on all the corners, but that's more or less what those pieces of angle iron will end up looking like in the end. Now, if you noticed in my picture, there's a cover, or yeah, a cover that goes there. Right now, this is open, but that's exactly what that's for. So I have to cut the outside lip of this off, and then mold it back into there. So apparently these oil tanks are actually sort of semi-press formed and whatnot. So the way this cap was actually formed, there was the main tank went over it and was squished back down, and the rest of this was sort of stamped out. So all I did is just sort of cut along the seam, and I was able to hit it out with a hammer. This is what I'm left over with on the top of that oil tank. The end was, you know, bent over down like this, and was actually stamped out. So that's what I'm left over. Alright, it is actually now the next day, and what I'm going to do is continue to work on my maple syrup evaporator project. This is the plate that I made to go on top, that fire bricks will be lined up on top of, and allows the smoke passage to get to the back part. I believe I also had shown you that I was cutting up stuff like this. I had cut up some angle iron pieces and then I cut these strips up. And the purpose of these strips is to just give extra rigidity to this big plate itself. Because as, of course, you know, everything heats up in there and there's going to be a pretty hot fire in there, you know, all the metal's going to get weaker and whatnot and more malleable. Because that's what happens when you heat metal. So to prevent that, or help cope with that as much as I can, I'm going to take these strips and weld them across like that to give the metal a lot of rigidity. And then also I had some leftover angle iron, so I'm going to make some shelves, sort of. I'm just going to weld the piece of angle here so it comes out the 2 inches, so give that plate actually something to sit on, along with welding it, or stitch welding it along the seam here. So I'll get myself set up for that, and we'll continue. Alright, it's a little bit later now. I have my strengthening strips welded through the plate itself. Came out alright. I only did some stitch welding all the way down it. I didn't feel like, or feel the need to do a full beat on there. That's kind of seemed like a waste of materials. But next thing I'm going to do is weld in my little shelf piece there. So I've been fiddling with it now, and have its position in a satisfactory spot. This here is just a little test piece I did, or a test patch I did with the welder, just to see how easy it would be, or how hard it would be to actually weld this tank. It actually seemed to weld pretty well, so I'm just going to measure that one more time, make sure I'm truly happy with what it is, and then I'll weld that on there, and then do the same thing on this side, and then the flat plate will sit on that as if it were a shelf. Alright, so with that angle piece and that angle piece welded in, the next thing I need to do, or the way I plan to do this, is lay my plate down on top of those and then weld that in along the sides, on both sides there, and then climb in the damn thing and then, you know, weld it along on the angle iron and then my little uprights, so I'll do a quick weld on the sides. But in order to do that, I need to actually get a ratchet strap, because you probably haven't noticed, being on camera, that I haven't showed it yet, but with the top cut off, the outside actually kind of bows out like that on both sides. So to take care of that, I need to take a ratchet strap and squeeze it together to then match up square with my plate that I made over there. However, before I ratchet strap it, I should actually probably take the plate and lay it in there so I don't lock myself into a corner where I can't slip it in nice and easy. So, like I said, the sides have bowed out a bit with the top having been cut off of it. So, I'm going to take a ratchet strap across it somehow so I can lock it in place better, and then I'll do my my welding. Alright, I got my ratchet straps squished together along the sides as best as I could. It's not perfect, but then again, it's just an oil tank evaporator for maple syrup, so it's not really going to be exactly perfect, but it's good enough to get the job done. So, I have the welder right there. I'm going to start stitching along the sides, and then, like I said, climbing the damn thing and do underneath on the shelf pieces, and get the ends of my strips attached to the wall of the tank. This camera doesn't really like watching welding, so I usually don't film welding too much. And, I mean, if you're watching this, you've seen me weld other things before. It's going to all be the same. After a little bit of persuasion with my hammer and block and stuff, it's where it needs to be. Alright, I'm back out here working on this thing again, and I've been looking around and trying to piece together the side shelf bits, and I've figured out that I need to do this piece first before I do any of this stuff, because otherwise that won't fit, or I can't make it fit. So that's going to get stuck up into there to block off that area there. So I'm going to pull up the welder. I'm going to have to do a little bit of massage with a hammer so that fits in there nice and tight. Then I'm going to end up welding that nice and in there. Alright, after a little bit of massaging and fitting and whatnot, I have settled on this. So I'm going to end up doing the angle iron and the top of that all in one piece. Well, at the same time, I should say. So, let's get started. Alright, so I have this side all welded in, still a little bit warm. This side, there's a gap that developed. I probably should have put another spot weld over here. So I'm going to just pull it out a little bit, do some more massaging, I guess, and see what I can make happen here. Alright, so for now, this maple syrup evaporator is complete. And I say for now because technically there still needs to be a chimney hole cut in the top, and there still needs to be a door added to the front, and the person who I'm building this for plans to cut a hole in the bottom of it, stuff a pipe through so that he can make some sort of an air system with a fan to push air up into there to make the fire as hot as it could be for making maple syrup. So, where we last left off, I believe I was working on these side pieces, which I showed you a bit of how I was welding it, and then I had to, notch out the front piece here and did the same thing there. The only thing I'm going to do now is just spend a little bit of time with my grinding wheel and grind down some of the welds, since this isn't necessarily the cleanest thing that I've ever welded, so some of them are a little bit ugly, but for the most part they actually came out pretty decently. As I said before, the fire goes down in there, which will be fed in through a door, and then there's going to be pans that rest across the top here for evaporating sap into maple syrup. Then this here wall and whatnot is just there because to block off half of it for the fire, and then the smoke will come out of the fire, go up into there, and then come out the top once there's a chimney. So that'll do it for this video. Unfortunately, because it is July, maple syrup making season isn't for another 8 months or so, so I won't have footage of you of it actually working. And technically there's still work to be done to this, and the person who I'm building this for is also building the sugar shack, as I said, so that's not done yet at all. But for now, this project is complete. If you like this video, be sure to click the like button, make sure you subscribe, and get out there and do something.